Tonight's episode is a special. Tonight we're talking about a very difficult topic. Trigger warning, kapatid. We are going down the deep dark road of depression, suicide, and substance abuse. We're also going to talk about how to take care of our mental health so we can all do better in law school. All of this and more coming right up. Hi, my name is Lex and welcome to Lex in Motion. In this channel, I'll be helping you build your competence, confidence, and capability in law school. Start today by hitting the subscribe button below. New episodes are posted every Friday. Tonight, we have a special guest from the Department of Health. Our guest tonight is a Senior Health Program Officer for the Department of Health and has been with the department for over 3 years. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Amadeus Fernando M. Pagente.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me in your channel.
Maraming salamat po for this wonderful opportunity, Sir Mads. Maraming salamat. Thank you for joining us tonight and we would like to welcome you tonight in the Lex in Motion community. I know this is an awfully sensitive and difficult topic to talk about, Sir Mads. So let's begin with this. How normal is it for the average Filipino to have suicidal thoughts? Has the incidence of suicides increased during the pandemic?
Well, to start off, it is not normal for anyone to have suicidal thoughts. Suicidal thoughts, much like mental health conditions, can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, or background. In fact, suicide is often the result of an untreated mental health condition. Suicidal thoughts, although common, should not be considered normal and often indicate more serious issues.
In my experience, suicidal thoughts come and go. Sometimes the impulse is awfully strong and waxes and wanes depending on my activities. Are there any steps we can take to keep these thoughts at bay, Sir Mads?
To be honest, I myself would experience this, and whenever I do, I seek professional help for further assessment to address any underlying mental health condition that may cause suicidal behavior. Well, there are risk factors like warning signs and protective factors to be assessed to establish the risk for suicide. There are 3 forms of suicide. The ultimate factor that drives a person to choose to die by suicide is subjective and personal. Let's talk about, let's say, suicide theory. There has been a development of a number of ideation to action suicide theories, which are hoped to provide a framework by which to better understand suicide risk. This includes the interpersonal theory of suicide, the 3-step theory, the integrated motivational volitional model, and the fluid vulnerability theory, all of which have undergone varying degrees of investigation. These theories are based on the concept that thoughts about suicide and suicidal acts are distinct processes, and that factors that influence the development of suicidal thoughts are different to those which lead to the transition from thoughts to acts. There is some evidence to suggest that altered pain tolerance is associated with self-harm, though it is not yet clear whether this is a consequence or cause of the behavior. This may have a role in habituation to self-harm, increasing the capability to make a successful suicide attempt. This may be through psychological or biological mechanisms and requires more research. However, there is already evidence that those who self-harm have higher pain thresholds and that these people also have higher levels of personality features such as introversion, neuroticism, and lower self-worth.
Ang aking karanasan with suicide, my experience with suicide, Sir Mads, is rooted primarily sa aking karanasan din with recreational drugs. Is there a relationship between drug use, substance abuse, and suicide?
Definitely. Nearly 90% of those who died by suicide have experienced serious mental illnesses such as bipolar disorder, major depression, schizophrenia, and substance use disorders. Although it is difficult to compare the relative impact among different mental health problems with the risk of suicide, alcohol and drug disorders have been found to be strongly related to suicide risk. Individuals with a substance abuse disorder, for example, either a diagnosis of abuse or dependence on alcohol or drugs, are almost 6 times more likely to report a lifetime suicide attempt than those without a substance use disorder. A number of surveys done in other countries have helped shed light on the relationship between alcohol and other drug use and suicidal behavior. A review of minimum age drinking laws and suicides among youths aged 18 to 20 years old found that lower minimum age drinking laws was associated with higher youth suicide rates. In a large study following adults who drink alcohol, suicide ideation was reported among persons with depression. In another survey, persons who reported that they had made a suicide attempt during their lifetime were more likely to have a depressive disorder, and many also had an alcohol and/or substance abuse disorder. In a study of all non-traffic injury deaths associated with alcohol intoxication, over 20% were suicides.
Sir Mads, bakit po may mga taong nagda-drugs? Why do people turn to drugs and much later on to drug abuse?
Well, to be honest, people use drugs for many reasons. They want to feel good, stop feeling bad, or perform better in school or at work, or they are curious because others are doing it and they want to fit in. The last reason is very common among teens. Drugs excite the parts of the brain, the reward pathway, that make people feel good. But after taking the drug for a while, the feel-good parts of the brain get used to it. Then, there is a need to take more of the drug to get the same good feeling. Soon, the brain and the body must have the drug just to feel normal. The person feels sick, awful, anxious, and irritable without the drug. The person will no longer have good feelings that he or she had when he or she first used the drugs. Hence, the developing dependence.
Does the department consider suicide as a problem in our country? What steps, if any, is the government taking to address suicide?
Every suicide is a tragedy that affects families, communities, and entire countries and has long-lasting effects on the people left behind. It is a public health concern. Live Life, the National Suicide Prevention Strategy, aims to bring awareness of the magnitude of suicide and self-harm in the country to understand the solid impact, social determinants, and associated risks of suicide and self-harm in order to come up with client-centered as well as population-based interventions.
Kung sa kasalukuyan po, Sir Mads, if I am currently having suicidal thoughts, sino po ang aking pwedeng makausap? At ano po kaya ang maaaring maging tulong na pwede kong maasahan mula sa kanila?
We have the National Center for Mental Health Crisis Hotline 1553 or can be accessed through 0917-899-8727. And they can also check out the Facebook page of NCMH Crisis Hotline and look for the list of crisis hotlines and service providers in the country. You may also reach out to the Center for Family Ministries at the Ateneo de Manila University for your family. If you have your personal therapist, please reach out for professional help.
How can we get past the barrier of the toxic Filipino culture of dismissing suicidal thoughts as nasa isip mo lang yan o kayang-kaya mo yan?
Well, I think it is important for everyone to be aware of the situation. So, awareness campaigns are necessary. Make conversations about mental health a regular conversation.
The mental health law aims to make mental health education part of our school system. What steps are we taking to ensure that these discussions are appropriate for different ages? What training are we providing for our teachers on these topics?
Well, the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education are members of the Philippine Council for Mental Health. Efforts are made to integrate mental health in their curriculum. Training on psychological first aid for teachers will be very helpful.
What is your vision, the department's vision, on the state of suicide in the Philippines in the next 3 to 5 years? What can we as ordinary law students do to help that vision?
Well, our vision is really to decrease suicide rates by implementing the suicide prevention strategy plan. As a law student, you need to take care of yourself, know when to ask for professional help, and extend help to others by providing safe spaces.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Mads, sa pagkakataon na tayo ay nakapagkwentuhan kahit sandali lang.
Maraming salamat din, Lex. Thank you very much. Mabuhay kayong lahat and have a #HealthyPilipinas.
This episode was brought to you by the Department of Health and Google Asia Pacific. Salamat kapatid kung inabot mo ang ending ng episode na ito. Salamat din kung kahit papaano ay may natutunan ka dito. If you would like to see future episodes on how to take care of your mental health while in law school, let me know by typing yes in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Like and share this video for good law school karma, and I will see you next Friday.